are listening to an audio discussion on critical reasoning in GMAT. For more information and online training you should visit gmat-prep-crash-course.blogspot.com. Tackling the critical reasoning section of the GMAT. GMAT critical reasoning questions fall into a number of specific categories, and knowing which type of problem is confronting you will be the key to answering these questions correctly. Below, you will find a roster of the question types that will appear on the GMAT. Assumption questions. Assumption questions will ask you to identify the unstated piece of information that must be true for the author's evidence to lead to their conclusion. Remember that the right answer will be information that causes the author's argument to no longer make sense if it was not true. Strengthen questions. Strengthen questions require an answer choice that makes the argument more likely to be true. You want to find a new piece of evidence that provides support for the argument's main point. Weaken questions. Weaken questions are the exact opposite of strengthen questions. A circumflex, you need to find an answer that makes the argument less likely to be true. The correct answer will be a piece of evidence that severs the link between the author's evidence and conclusion. Flaw questions. Flaw questions are similar to weaken questions. However, instead of looking for an answer choice that introduces a new piece of evidence, you want to search for a choice that explains an inherent problem in the author's reasoning. Explain questions. Explain questions will present you with two pieces of evidence that appear to contradict each other. Your goal is to find the answer that explains why no contradiction actually exists. Inference questions. Inference questions will provide you with a set of facts. You should accept these facts as true and assess each answer and look for a choice that must also be true based on the evidence provided. Bolded statement questions. Bolded statement questions will feature an argument, two portions of which are in boldface. Your goal is to identify the role in the argument played by each statement in the relationship between the statements. The role could be evidence, conclusion, conjecture, etc., and the statements could support each other or refute each other. You are listening to an audio discussion on critical reasoning in GMAT. For more information and online training you should visit gmat-prep-crash-course.blogspot.com. 1 4-step process for all CR questions. First, S1 overall process we are going to use for any CR question. A circumflex and Step 1, identify the question. A circumflex and Step 2, deconstruct the argument. A circumflex and Step 3, state the goal. A circumflex and Step 4, work from wrong to right. These steps might sound obvious to some people and very vague to others. I'll explain each in more detail below, but first I would like to say that each step is there for a very important reason, and each step has been split off from the others for a very important reason. Identify the question. Most arguments are followed by a question. There is actually one exception, but we are not going to discuss that here. There are several different types of CR questions, and the wording of the question stem, the part below the argument itself, allows us to identify which type of CR question we are about to have to answer. It is critically important to identify that question type right away because we need to employ different kinds of reasoning depending upon the type of question we have. We want to know, right from the beginning, how best to work through the current problem, and we can accomplish that by identifying the question family and the specific question type. See below for more. You are listening to an audio discussion on critical reasoning in GMAT. For more information and online training you should visit gmat-prep-crash-course.blogspot.com. Deconstruct the argument. Arguments are made up of building blocks, such as premises, counter-premises, assumptions, and conclusions. When reading the argument, we want to take very brief notes that allow us to deconstruct the argument into its building blocks. What kinds of information do we have and which pieces lead to which other pieces? Knowing all of this allows us to do what we call a circumflex reading with a purpose. A circumflex, we know what we need to find, so we can actively look for these things, and we know what kind of reasoning we need to do in order to answer the question, so we can begin to think things through a bit while we are rereading. This assumes that we know what we are doing for each question type. More below. State the goal. This is a short but often overlooked step. What exactly am I trying to do when I answer this question? What is my goal? I know what kind of question I have. I understand the argument and how it fits together now. I know my conclusion, if there is one. A circumflex. Now what? At this stage, we need to remind ourselves what it is we are actually trying to do when we start attacking the answers, and this goal depends upon the type of question that we have. Let us say that we have an inference question. Our goal is to find an answer that must be true given at least some, but not necessarily all of the information in the argument. As we continue to study, we will also learn that trap answers on inference questions often do too much, that is, they offer something that could be true or maybe is even somewhat likely to be true given the premises in the argument, but the answer